Looks like the video's getting started. There we go. All right. Welcome to the live for today. I know you all have been asking some questions about pricing intensives, so I'm ready to dive in, talk about it a little bit more. Let me know as you're signing on where you're signing on from, any questions you have about pricing that you'd like me to cover today. And then otherwise, we'll just go ahead and dive in. So for those of you who may be new to the group, just to introduce myself, my name is Amanda Baduris. I am a licensed psychologist currently living in Oregon, but originally from Chicago in the Midwest. I have a solo self-pay private pay therapy practice that is currently full. Been offering and adding intensives for the past, maybe like 7 months now at this point, and learned a lot along the way in terms of ways to best market and sell all of the intensives, really learning how to do that most effectively and wanting to teach you all the things that I have learned. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, pricing, exactly what kind of structures do you look at, what things do you want to consider as you're putting together a package, if you're doing intensive packages, or things you want to consider if you're doing 90-minute sessions or different pieces like that. And we're also going to talk about some money mindset pieces, because as I've been having some one-on-one conversations with people in this group through Facebook Messenger, I've been hearing a lot of that come up of like, right, when you joined this group, one of those questions was, are you ready to, and are you excited about charging, $2,000 to $5,000 for an intensive package? And most people said, heck yes, I am, and I'm ready to go. And yet still, right, we have a fear behind it. So I think it's important to talk about what the money mindset blocks might be that are coming up. So I actually want to start there because we can go into talking about all of the, equations, formulas, things to consider, things to talk about. We definitely will go there, but I think it may not hit home or as much as it might be needed if we don't start with some of the money mindset pieces. So Pamela, you asked, do I price 20% above my hourly couples rate? Yes, so I do it a little differently depending on how different people charge 50-minute rate, hour rate. If you're doing it weekday, weekend, if you don't work weekends, there's a few different suggestions that I've learned, things that I've found have worked effectively for me. But yes, generally 20% is an area I stick around, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to that part of the section. So the money mindset piece that comes up for people, right? I've talked about this maybe in another live kind of in passing, but we all have all these different money beliefs around our role as a therapist. Some common ones that I have heard is around like, we're in this field to help people. We're not here to make money. Don't expect to make money. All of those things. We have to be accessible to everyone, so we can't charge these premium fees even for premium services. Have you all heard these, or what else have you heard when it comes to money in the field of therapy? I've heard some people say like, not to me directly, thankfully, but I've heard some other people have gotten shamed, like you should be ashamed for charging that much and taking advantage of people and things like that. Or even the thought that all therapists should be on all insurance panels in order to be the most successful and accessible, and pieces around that. So right, we all have our pieces of thinking why we can or should charge different amounts, right? Like should we even be charging private pay, premium fees, all those things? But really facing this money mindset concern, facing this head on, can really lead to more confidence and success in our business for a number of different reasons, not just for intensives, but also for what is your general fee? How else do you make up for maybe not having the financial success that you need to pay your bills, pay for health insurance, all those things. So the more that we can tackle money mindset head on, and especially in this context of intensives that we're going to do here today, the more it can be helpful and actually like having success in your private practice. So, for example, many of you have already gotten one of my emails where I started talking about, I started implementing intensives again several months ago at this point. And when I did it, I took one of those kind of self-paced courses that was like, I'll teach you how to launch your intensives in 4 days. And it was just a series of videos that you worked through on your own. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. I can check the box of like, here's this script, here's this formula for pricing, post that on my website. Great, we're good to go. What that meant for me though, because at that point I hadn't really addressed the money mindset blocks I had, is that I had so much guilt and shame for what I was doing. I was already thinking about, man, that is so much money and no one's gonna pay that for me and I'm stupid for even doing this. And I'm already thinking about, okay, well maybe there's ways that I can offer discounts, maybe there's ways I can put these packages on sale to help sell, but I hadn't even booked one yet. And I was already thinking, this is too much money. No one's going to do this. This isn't going to be successful. I know why it can be successful as a therapeutic modality and offering, but I was already setting myself up for failure because I had a money block that was a bad thing to do, to charge a premium price for a premium service. And so I didn't market it at all. Somehow, someone found me just through Google, booked the consult with me and ended up booking the intensive with me. And it wasn't until having that experience, doing more money mindset work around it, that I started to feel differently about it and see that investments, yes, intensives are an investment for clients up front. It's a big amount of money to say, here's X amount of grand. Clients are used to the lower fee therapy that insurance world kinds of sets up. We're used to maybe paying $20, $30 copay, but also some people do have higher deductibles even in network. So some people do already pay more, but maybe not a couple of grand at a time. So they're used to low fee therapy spread out over a long period of time, right? How many times have we heard I've been in therapy for over a year, 5 years, the past 10 years, with these bite-sized pieces of healing that happen sometimes, or sometimes I'm stuck. So lots of questions of, this is what I'm used to, just lower fee. What do you mean we charge a higher fee? And at the same time, clients want quick fixes, right? Like I want to feel better now. I want to feel better ASAP. I had one client come to me for weekly therapy saying like, I want to completely eradicate all my symptoms. Like that's a big goal, especially for weekly therapy. So they want the quick fixes, but they're not used to what else that can look like. Yeah, Stacy, you're talking about thinking through the discounts, all the things that we've heard, don't make money in this field. You have to be in the field for so long to charge a certain amount. Absolutely. We all have all these blocks around what does it mean to charge high fees. So, right, the point of the intensive when we're thinking about clients do want a quick fix, we know that 45 to 60 minute sessions are not always the thing that are going to get people to where they want to be. The point of the intensive is that you are providing them with what they need to be successful long term over a short period of time. But just because, and if I'm looking over this way, I'm looking at my notes because I want to remember all these points. Just because the change, growth, and healing are happening over a shorter period of time, this doesn't mean it's the shortness and length that's leading to the change, growth, and healing, right? It's not about, you should be changing over a period of 2 days. It's, no, in 2 days, we get X amount of hours, let's say like 10, just to make it an easy number, where if we were meeting weekly, that's 10 weeks, right? 10 weeks versus 2 days, that's a long difference in time. It's a big difference in time. And so it's not actually the length of time that people are paying for. They're paying for the elongated, prolonged space in which they have the time to grow, change, heal, right? Like that's what they're actually doing. That's what they want, is the number of hours we're fitting into a short time frame. And I'm framing it like this because I want you all to think about, coming back into this broader lens of money mindset, think about like therapy in this case, like an appliance. When I bought a $20 Mr. Coffee stand mixer, that thing started to fail within a year. I don't even think I got more than like half a year out of it. Now, when I invested $300 into a KitchenAid, 7 years later, it's still working brand new, like it's brand new. We all already have this sense of it, isn't it? It isn't true in all cases, but I think we do all kind of have a sense of like if we're paying less for something, usually we know the benefits are going to be a little bit shorter lived. If I buy those Target, what's that brand? Heyday headphones, I know they're not going to last as long as if I just, number one, take the ones that already came with my phone. But we have this sense of if we are investing in products that are, more reputable, that have more backing behind them, more science in terms of kind of like what's going into the technology and things like that. Typically, we know we're going to have longer lasting rewards that we also benefit from right away. And so understanding generally the money blocks that can come up for on the client end around like that's a lot of money up front. Maybe I'd just rather pay that small amount. Maybe it's just going to take time and I can get that. But talk with your clients about money. Like how many of you actually talk with your clients about money and why they have the money mindset that they do? If therapy's supposed to be this way, therapy's supposed to be affordable in this way, right? Like talk with them about where do their money things come from? Because oftentimes, I think a lot of us have childhood intergenerational financial trauma that makes us feel like we're not worth investing in, right? Like it's supposed to be this way, it's supposed to look that way. I don't deserve this. And oftentimes therapists fall into those very same money blocks, those money mindset blocks. And so we have to address our own stuff too. So thinking about, the ways that we also look for the quick fixes and the low costs, especially when it comes to spending money on ourselves and on our businesses. Again, like I said, there are programs out there in the framework of this topic. There's a lot of programs actually that can teach you how to launch your intensives within, like I said, I took one that was 4 days. Some of them say even just like a few hours, maybe for a low cost. And that's true, right? You can absolutely do that kind of approach in terms of this is fast. It's a little bit of a DIY mindset, but maybe that's okay because maybe I'll get up and running and be good to go. And that is an option. But some of these programs, what they don't include is the necessary money mindset work we need to confidently charge those premium fees, whether that's in weekly therapy, whether that's in intensive therapy. Like I said, the program that I took, it gave me a little fee calculator for here's how you figure out what you want to charge, under what circumstances, things like that. And I followed it pretty blindly because I was like, I don't know what else to do. But it didn't give me the confidence to charge that fee because of my money mindset stuff, right? Like that block of that's still there. I know what to put on paper, but I don't know that I feel in alignment with that. That prevented me from being more successful more quickly, right? Helping clients more quickly. These types of DIY programs, self-paced programs, short-term programs also don't offer like individualized support or a chance to follow up with questions. So you're kind of left to your own devices and probably still anxious about this thing's not going to work. Nobody's found my website in 2 months and I'm scared to approach any of my clients and asking about them. So I guess I'm just going to give up on intensives altogether. I don't want you to do that, both for you and what intensives can offer for your practice, as well as I do want more clients to know about intensive therapy and why it's an option and why it's a helpful option to consider. And these programs that are shorter term in length lead you to think you're going to be comfortable enough in X amount of hours, X amount of days to just start offering this premium fee service that is a huge shift to your schedule, especially if you want to do all intensives, not just like some intensive packages here and there. So it's a huge shift to that schedule, and it may again go against that money mindset and sense of self-worth, particularly if you have your own childhood intergenerational financial trauma. So why am I talking about all of this, right? Again, you probably came on like, where's the pricing strategies? Let's just go to the part where we talk about how do I sell this thing. And again, we're going to get there in a second. But I want you all to just think about, like, for yourselves and the work that you do, like, how often have these DIY mindsets really got in your way, not only professionally, but personally, right? In your personal life, of how much have you worked harder and struggled longer by Googling something or YouTube, how do I fix my toilet or something, as opposed to just hiring a professional. Really thinking about, like, if we have these own blocks around the ways we do or don't invest in ourselves, it's going to be really hard to also get clients to invest in themselves, because they might have the exact same blocks. They may have more, they may have less. That's not particularly important. But if we're not doing our own work, it's going to be hard to make clients do that work that, again, is really for them, and you just happen to benefit from it as well. So for example, the new group coaching program that I'm getting up and running, I'm aware that I set a time frame of 3 months, not because I think therapists have a lot of time. I know we're all busy, right? I hear that a lot in these one-on-one messages that I'm checking in with some people about, of like, I just don't have time. I don't even have time to watch the lives or the replays, which are only 30 minutes. How am I supposed to invest in a weekly thing? But what I know is that an elongated space to learn, process, work through all these different blocks that may be coming up and integrate new material, that can't happen in a short amount of time, right? Like, there's something very different about short-term programs and long-term programs. And this is different in terms of, again, a therapy intensive is about a lot of work in a short-term program, whereas therapy is a little bit of work in a long-term way. So to be thinking about, right, like the parallels between, like, what does prolongated short-term work, what does that look like? What does that look like for our own growth versus a lot of work in a little bit of time? And right, this all fits into too, the difference between intensive packages and working intensively. Intensive packages are not the be-all, end-all of all healing. It accelerates healing, but it's unrealistic in a lot of cases, especially I work with a lot of complex PTSD. It's unrealistic to tell a client you're going to do this one therapy intensive and you're never going to need help again, right? So in the same way, for us as therapists, as we're working on our personal and professional growth, it's unrealistic that you're going to have one short-term experience and never need help again. So we need to lead by example in embodying that mindset of, we are worth investing in ourselves, in both time and money, and that clients are also worth investing in themselves, in both time and money. And I want that to just, like, sit with you, right? Like, what comes up for you when I say those things, when I'm talking about all this money mindset stuff? Is that uncomfortable? Is there something that actually doesn't feel good to hear and think about? Feel free to leave that in the chat. Feel free to message me after you watch this, if you're watching it live or the recording. But I want to kind of, again, just like set that frame before talking about pricing strategies. Because like I said, we're getting there. But I think there's a difference between realizing, what are we asking clients to do? And are we willing to do that too? Right? There's not a lot of things that I will ask my clients to do that I haven't tried first, that I am not also in alignment with. And so thinking about pricing strategies, right? Knowing all these money mindset blocks, knowing all these reasons that people may already be like, no, that's definitely not going to work. That's definitely not an option. I can't do that. That's too much money. Okay, so number one, how are you even pricing your intensives? So depending on the length of the intensive, is it a 90-minute intensive? Is it a 5-day, 4-hour-a-day intensives? Like, how long are we meeting? What's the depth of what we're doing? Because I see people charge differently depending on, it's a 90-minute session, you're still doing depthful work, but a 4-hour session, that's a lot of work, right? It's a lot more work than 90 minutes, literally and mentally. It's more taxing to sit in front of someone for 4 hours and do that work. So what's the length? What's the depth? What are some of the kind of protocol structures that you're putting into place? Because I know some people who do have training in EMDR or IFS or any of those other somatic therapies, can and will charge a little bit higher for that, just based on the training that went into being able to do that. Certainly considering your expertise and the value that you bring as a therapist into the intensive experience. And expertise is not about length of time in the field, right? How long have I been doing this? That doesn't really matter. What matters is when you talk with a current client, or as you're marketing yourself on anywhere on the internet, on your website, social media, whatever that might be, how are you showing your expertise? How are you talking to your clients in a way that they know you are the one they want to work with? Number of years in the field doesn't mean a dang thing if you don't know what your client needs and where they get stuck. So showing that you have this expertise, you have unique value, right? I think that can inform how you decide to price and offer your intensives. I have seen, again, some people and some judgment in the field around, well, I've been doing this work for 20 plus years, so I can charge X amount of work, and maybe others should think about charging less than that. I don't think that's the case. I think if you're confident in the fee that you're charging, you're confident in the work that you can do in an intensive experience, charge what you need to charge. Because again, it is a lot of work for you. It is worth charging a higher amount, even if you only get so many people doing it. Like I've said, my experience with intensives can vary. Since I've been getting more and more people to book, I'm probably doing 2 to 3 packages a month, but that's all I need. I don't need more people doing it because I still like weekly therapy, but my intensives are priced at a premium price, so not everyone is coming in wanting to do them, which also means I can fit them in a good amount of time. I can do some good work. This week, for example, I think I only have 10 clinical hours because I did a therapy intensive over the weekend with a couple. And now I'm not stressed because I only have 10 clinical hours, because the money I made from the intensive, just the one intensive this month, has done me well. So to think about too, like, what is the expertise? What is the unique value that you offer? I've also talked with a few of you in this group who have really great ideas about how to do some integrated intensive programs. Like those of you who might work at group programs have talked about, this therapist has training in this modality and I have training in this one and they have that one. And how do we even have multiple therapists involved in one intensive program? I think that's an amazing idea, right? Like that is such a unique program that you can offer. And again, at a premium rate, not only because in that case you'd be splitting the fee amongst multiple therapists, but because no one else is probably offering that, right? A client would see, like, here's all the stuff that I can do. That's amazing. So think about, what is the value? What's the expertise you have to bring in? How does that inform your pricing? And let's see. Yeah, so otherwise thinking through when it comes to the specifics around, okay, so yes, here's the money mindset piece. Yes, I'm thinking about the length and the depth of the intensives. Again, just be thinking about what is, and this probably assumes some of the self-pay versus insurance. You might choose to do something differently based on that. But especially for self-pay, to be thinking about what is your current 45 or 60-minute rate. And then what you do not want to do is, okay, so I'm doing a 3-hour session. I'll take my 60-minute rate times 3 and call it good. You could do that, but what you don't want to do is, that's not actually working smarter, that's actually working harder, not smarter, because now you're just saying I'm seeing this client back to back for 3 hours and making the same amount of money, even though it was a lot more work. So for you to think about what is a percentage you would add on top for that. And so me, for example, I use 20% of my hourly rate. So then it would be my hourly rate times however many hours. I do 20% on top of that. If you do not work weekends, if you do not work weeknights, you can even think about charging a higher rate for that. Because again, people will pay it if that's the thing that they need to accommodate in their schedule. If they can see the value in, that is ultimately you working overtime if that's not already within your schedule. So people will pay it. And two, something that I want to talk about as I'm saying, like, here's your hourly rate, which maybe is already a premium, charging 40% above that. I've also had a number of one-on-one conversations with some people around, like, how do I fit intensives in a socially just practice, right? And like, that's a great question because, right, some people will pay $5,000 for an intensive and be like, oh yeah, it's worth it. Actually, I could have paid a lot more, and that's great. And some people are saying there's no way I would ever be able to pay $5,000 out of pocket. So yeah, at face value, looking at an intensive as the investment that it is, not everyone's going to be able to afford it. But that does not mean you can't include intensives in your practice in a socially just way, right? Again, like the way that you incorporate them into your practice, depending on how many you do, what works for you, what exactly is the pricing structure. Me offering the intensives that I do, the number that I do a month, allows me to see people for $20 a month, allows me to see people, or $20 a session, or what else do I see? 60, 80, 85. Like I get to work with people who need to pay less because I don't worry about, kind of bleeding heart syndrome in some ways. Like I would love for therapy to be accessible and free to everyone, but it doesn't, where you live in a capitalistic society, so it doesn't work that way. So to think about how do I help the people who really do need help while also not suffering because I'm working more, because I also have bills that I also need to pay. So having the intensives for the people who can pay it opens up the opportunity for you to help people who can't even afford the weekly sessions, right? I've talked with a couple of people who maybe try to do some like nonprofit work. I'm like, what a great opportunity where you can incorporate intensives of, do some intensives in your practice at that premium rate so that you are financially stable and sound. And then in a nonprofit kind of sector or way, you could offer one-time intensives pro bono, right? Like you can be as creative as you want with this. There is no hard, set, fast rule. So I want to open up if there's any questions or reactions to, again, either money mindset pieces, specific pricing pieces. What are things that you all are thinking about in terms of percents that you might feel comfortable charging above your hourly rate? How what you might be trained in, the expertise you have might influence that rate. Any questions or thoughts, things that you have? But I know also people are busy, and generally I try to keep this around 30-minute mark, so we've got maybe a couple minutes, but I'll definitely hang out if there is anything. So otherwise, just want to give some takeaways around, like, be reflecting on money mindset pieces, right? Like, why are there blocks coming up to thinking about charging clients this much? Why might you experience blocks about investing in yourself? And ultimately, how can you work towards helping other people see that investing in themselves creates all these ripple effects, right? Especially for therapists investing in themselves. The more you invest in yourself, the more everyone is going to benefit: your family, your clients, your business. So just want to leave it at that. If there are no questions, and again, as this just kind of like seeps in and maybe you have questions, know that you can always email me, message me. If you have any questions about ways to invest in yourself and work with me, I'm happy to talk with you about various options for support that are there. But otherwise, thank you for your time. Thank you for those who are able to make it live, and for those who are catching the recording, feel free to just reach out with any questions that came up during this. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.